Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Well, hello guys. So I have Cian O'Brien back on the podcast today, and we wanted to talk a little bit about coming up to Christmas, like how people maybe like make it more of a big deal than it is, and then we kind of talk about why this can happen. So it kind of goes a little bit deep, and like, you know, maybe you are training because you think you want one thing, but there's a little bit more reasons, and there's always more to it than it's on the surface. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this, guys. Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I have a return of Cian O'Brien. It's been a while since he's been on, so I had to bother him and ask him to come back on again. So welcome to the podcast again today. Cian, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Chrissy. How about yourself? Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, good. Thank you for agreeing to come on. So we're kind of going to talk about, I suppose, we know this week is the big C. And I think, obviously, I don't know, we start to see people drop off the gym from the start of December, especially this year, because there seems to be 6,000 parties every week because people are making up for lost time. Have you found that much with your clients at all?
Yes and no. I think also you'll see people being kind of, I won't say led astray, but distracted by that, and they will see some of their fitness, even though it's incredibly valuable to them and it aligns with their values, as too expensive given like the cost of living and stuff. You see a few people like that. I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard it from others. Although last couple of weeks the cold has helped. I think the cold helped because people had no problem going to an indoor facility to train.
True, it's very. I, as people know, I horse ride, and it was horrible that week.
Oh, you wouldn't have paid me enough money to like do something outside. Not a chance.
Yeah, going up in the indoor. My horse is not happy either as well. He was like literally aggressive towards me when I try and take his rugs off.
And I'd say, yeah, and rightly so.
Yeah, no, I'd be the same. Like if someone tried to take my blanket off in that cold, I'd be like, you fuck right off.
Put the heat on and fuck off.
Yeah. It's interesting though what you're saying about, like, you know, people say the cost of living and stuff like that now. Like, you know, I suppose fitness can be sometimes the kind of thing that becomes less of a priority this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a paradox because the same people will go out and they'll spend a few €100 on a night out, on alcohol, brand new clothes, drugs, taxis, but they'll be, oh, how much do you pay for a gym membership? Like, I was like, I think that's like really cheap. And I was like, oh man, I was like, I just saw your Instagram story at the weekend. Like, you went through probably $1,000 over the last weekend.
Yeah.
Thursday through Sunday. Easy. I'm like, don't talk to me about that.
That's the thing though, isn't it though? Like, it's say for instance you're going on a night out, like buying the new clothes. Now that's another one of those forms of instant gratification, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it feels good. All those things feel good. All those things feel good. They're welcome distractions from all the uncertainty and chaos that we see now. And I think many of us didn't acknowledge how much of an impact COVID had on us. And then coming out of it, we're trying to make up for that lost time as well, like you've said.
Yeah, I've really noticed that there seems to be so much different things on it. It's almost like people are afraid to say no, even if they don't really want to go, because what happens if this happens again and you miss the opportunity?
Yes, there's FOMO with everything. And if you think about the nature of fitness and what we do as coaches versus, say, class instructors or that type of fitness, we're talking more about delayed gratification, and that's a harder sell. It's harder to want to do those kind of things as well. So yeah, you're kind of just damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're like, you know that your friends are going to be out. You haven't seen them in so long. Everybody's just fed up. It's been however many years of this nonsense. COVID now, cost of living. Or it's like, when does it end? When do we get an escape? And it's like, nah, I want an escape now. This night out can give me that escape. Why not? I
Yeah.
think you should. Like you should indulge to a certain point.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, like I'm not here to say like, don't ever go out and have fun or don't drink. Like, it's like I would drink. I know you're not a big drinker, but um, it's like it's kind of, I suppose, looking at it and I think maybe reframing it in a sense because people are like, oh no, I can't afford that. But it's not that you can't afford it in some ways, it's more it's not a priority. Like it's more a priority for you to go out and have that night out.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I think those two things can coexist without them actually being true. If that, I know that that sounds like a massive contradiction. Um, we're human and we're easily manipulated.
Mm.
And we probably do it to ourselves the most. So fitness might be a priority. And I don't like saying like, oh, it's like fitness is the priority because it sounds very sterile and
Yeah.
um I'd trying to think of the word. But it's yeah, it sounds quite it sounds kind of sterile. Um but the release and kind of the instant gratification and the that feel good factor that these things give you, it's very difficult to say no to. Like so many people struggle to say no these days, and I'm one of those.
Yeah. I wouldn't be great with myself. So coming into say this week, like I suppose, I don't know how you get this. I get some clients kind of almost worrying about what's going to happen, or eating almost as if like this week will be ruining their whole 6 months of work, and they're just very like almost nervous about stuff. Like they'll still go and eat the food and do the stuff, but do you find you get that with any of your clients as well?
Yeah, you'll see the people who are kind of most anal about their fitness that um they've either become a bit obsessive about it or maybe it's a huge part of their identity. They might struggle at this time of the year um being able to let go, and that's normal. But then you've got those on the other side who are kind of swimming upstream in the sense that they're trying to do things they've never done in their life before.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to be somebody they've never been with fitness at priority. I don't know, I hate to fitness with themselves being that priority and not just going out every weekend. And both of those people, I think, have two different options, or kind of there's a better option for the two of them, and they're just polar opposites. So for a person who struggles to let go, you'd be trying to find a way to let go a little bit, so to let loose. And then the other person, you'd be trying to constrain how much they let loose. So to remember the last however many months and what they've already put into what they're working towards. But it's not that simple.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I suppose like I find a lot of them will almost be like worrying about like say they're like, oh, I've eaten so much chocolate or I've been out and this or this, and you're like, it's really not that big a deal, 2 weeks or whatever. You know, you will be okay. You're not going to balloon into twice your size or something like that. You may put on a bit of weight, but it's probably going to be water weight that you can shift straight soon after, like.
Yeah, and if we can get to a stage where we can sit with it, we it becomes quite clear that the feelings of kind of guilt and shame that these individuals will feel, they've been attribute we that's because they've attributed labels and values of good and bad to certain things. They're taking things very personally, as in the fact that the weight has gone up a little bit is a reflection of their self-worth, which is now lower because they've quote unquote failed. But that's something that's quite difficult for them to, that's a difficult bridge for them to approach and then cross, because they will hop on the scales, or they may not hop on the scales, but they will see a significant change in their body in a very short period of time because they haven't been active at all. And maybe they've eaten 2, 3, 4 times their average calorie intake in a day, and many days consecutively. So from Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, St. Stephen's Day, 3 days in a row. Let's just say your baseline's 2,000 calories and you have 6,000 calories those 3 days. It's only an extra week of eating. It's an extra 3 days. Oh, sorry, a half week. Well, sorry, no, an extra 2 days per day. Yeah, an extra week, like 6 days extra of eating. So on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, you'll definitely get an extra week's worth of calories, but it's not really about the calories. So people don't understand some very basic things around nutrition, and then with their goals, they're maybe lacking a little bit of self-awareness around them, and they've never really sat with them to kind of figure out what it is they're actually chasing, because you're never really chasing, say, weight loss or whatever it is. You're trying to feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
You're trying to look better for your partner. And then that's not even about your partner. It's still about you and your relationship with your partner. The thing that we're working towards is rarely the thing, if that makes sense. So you can take a step back and sit with it a little bit. I think that can help, because you'll realize that things don't matter in the way that you think they matter.
Yeah, I think that was a really good way of saying it. Like, you're right, the goal you think it is never really the actual goal. It's like a surface level goal, but if you dig deeper, it is that, like, it's making yourself feel better, or like feeling more confident and stuff in yourself, and you think you associate that with weight loss or whatever, when there could be a completely different thing that would change that for you.
Yeah, it's the symptoms rather than the cause, and we hyperfixate on those symptoms, and then we can change these symptoms, but because we haven't addressed some of the underlying things. How often do you find a client reaches their goals of whatever, weight loss, hitting a certain, like, or a performance metric, and they realize, oh, I'm not happy, because they've created this narrative in their head that I'll be happy when, or oh, I'm going to be happy soon. And that's who I need to be. And then they realize that they're the same person. They're just a smaller or a stronger or a fitter version of that person. And they haven't actually taken time to look at any of those supporting beliefs or values underneath that goal that they've held for so long. And oftentimes you're just disappointed and trying to hold on to that then because of the sunk cost fallacy. So they're like, oh, well, I've worked so hard, I need to maintain it. And it becomes a miserable experience then to maintain it as well.
Yeah. I kind of find, like, I see almost the opposite, like that. They don't really know why they're going to do what they want to do, because they think they should or whatever. And then because it's not happening in a time frame they think they should, or they overdo it at the start, and then they just give up because it's not, like, they're just tired and they're not getting the results they thought they should have by then, and then they disappear. And then a couple of months down the line, they're like, oh, I feel bad again. They come back again. So I feel like they're also on this rotating hamster wheel of never getting to where they want to, because it's not happening the way they want to. So they give up, and then they come back, and they give up, and then they come back.
Yeah,
it's in January now. Like, you'll see all these people you haven't seen for 6 months suddenly flooding the gyms.
Yeah, the goals aren't explicit, and they're often not realistic with things like time frame. Um, we change everything rather than one thing, and that's probably the number one thing I'd like to, sorry, one of the two top things I'd like to um advise people to do is to actually know what it is you're chasing. So you've got clarity on that outcome, and when you've got clarity on the outcome, you can reverse engineer the clarity for the process. Um, or you can look at kind of what you're doing, like what you are doing right now, because it's probably not aligning with what you want. If you're one of those people who's going to hit it really hard come January, what you're doing right now, you have a kind of clear process right now, but you can think of what that's going to do if you can continue to do that for 6 more months. So let's just say you went from 3 days a week to 2 days a week to 1 day a week. So sooner rather than, and your step count is decreasing. Your clothes are fitting a bit tighter. You're not you're feeling more guilt and shame about these things that you're doing. You can see where the direction that that's going in. And you probably won't see an outcome, but you'll be able to see the direction you're going in and what trajectory are you traveling in. So that'd be the first thing I think I ask people to kind of look at when they are doing it. So they know that, oh, well, this is actually what I want. So here's where I should probably start.
It's interesting as well, actually, when the clients are saying to me, so they mentioned something today and they said, oh, I'm only here a few times a week. I was like, you're here a good bit, like, you are. And they're like, oh, a couple of days a week. And I was like, yeah, but you come every week.
Yeah,
And
like
that's the thing, like, people underestimate the fact of just staying consistent, even if it is 2 days a week.
yeah, it's over 100 times a year.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask someone if you did something 100 times in a year, would you say that that's a lot? They'd be go, oh yeah, it's loads. So that's a difficult. People find it difficult to give themselves credit. I find as well.
Yeah.
They'll talk about, or you'll see them be kind of dismissive towards themselves and kind of what they've done as, oh well, I've only done this, or I'm still weak, or I'm not there yet. I mean, it's like, I get it. I get you're not happy with kind of where you're at and you want to continue going, but I do wonder about that. And I'm guilty of this myself.
Okay.
And then the second thing, I think, to kind of circle back to the realistic and explicit goals with that clarity, it would be focusing on what actually matters as well. Because how often do we see people, they don't just do one thing as well. So they'll do 5 things, 3 things, and they'll be kind of extreme things as well, but they won't address what it is that means they're not there already. So maybe they're not, maybe they're scrolling their phone till midnight and up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. Maybe anytime they kind of, oh, I don't want to sound like I'm not compassionate here. So, or maybe emotional eating is an issue. Maybe they binge eat. Maybe maybe they've never learned how to do some of the exercises they're trying to do, and they're wondering why the person next to them is so much further ahead, or why they can continue to make progress every week. Like they're adding weight to the bar every single week, but they're not. But they've never actually taken that first step. They've skipped from step 1 and tried to hop in at step 8. And some people can do that, but a lot of people can't.
Yeah.
There is a good way. There is a way to do things.
Yeah, that's true. Now I know what you mean as well, but you think as well, doing all these extra bits, throwing yourself different things is a way of avoiding actually looking at why you want to do it in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to like not being able to sit with it and kind of figure out why it is important to you. We'll do anything to avoid the actual problem. Just look at how many people in air quotes have to go out every weekend or have to binge eat at the end of every day, because they need an escape from what their reality is.
But even some of the people who have to train or they lose their shit, like.
Yeah, I'm a pretty horrible person to be around when I haven't trained or been physically active, and I understand that. I'm trying to get better at it. It just takes time.
And how will you go like over Christmas week? Will you train as normal or will you?
Yeah, I probably train as normal. I've trained. The gym is actually open here on Christmas Day, which I think is the dumbest thing ever. Mainly because of the fact that staff need to be there. It's a public holiday.
Yeah.
I understand that Christmas isn't a special day for many people. I don't like Christmas.
I don't like it either.
But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that gym is opening on Christmas Day because you're forcing your staff to work. Even if they have the quote unquote choice to work, I don't think many of them would feel comfortable or confident enough to say no if they didn't want to work. And I think a lot of it is virtue signaling, that it's like, oh, well, look at us, we're open 365 days a year. We're going to do a fundraiser on Christmas Day because we're such great people. Like,
or work off your Christmas dinner before you have it.
yeah, and messaging like that as well. Like, oh well, now I've and it reinforces those messages or those beliefs that I need to earn this.
Yeah. But you don't, by the way.
No.
You're allowed to enjoy your life without having to do a workout to make up for it.
Exactly. I want people to like go out and have like proper blowouts half the time as well. Like I'd be happy when certain people go out like proper blowouts, like, oh, I was out till like 6 a.m. I was like, oh, unreal. It's the people who do it all the time. I'm like, oh, maybe not a good idea. But it's those who like who genuinely enjoy it and seem to not experience any of the negative side effects, the really bad ones.
The death hangovers.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like, it just makes me depressed as hell.
Yeah, they're not great. I think I'll actually probably take the week off training that week because I think I'm due like a week off. And
What do you mean you're due a week off?
I like taking a week off every so often.
Oh yeah, you can take a week off. I thought you were like planning a deload, and it's like, Chrissy, you don't train hard enough to get a deload.
Hey, excuse me, I train very hard.
I think there's very few people in the world that need planned, structured deloads.
Oh no, I don't structure like that. Every so often, if I feel like I'm like, I'll take a lighter week. Like I'll go by my body, how my body's feeling when I do stuff. I don't go by, oh, it is the 4th week of this cycle, so I must take a deload. I go, I feel like shit this week. I'm taking a handy.
That grinds my gears, and that happens. And yeah, I know Chrissy years. That wasn't like
The offensive. I was like, excuse me, I did 110 kilo deadlift today. That was very hard. And I'm very chuffed to that, so that's why I was saying it.
It is good. It is good. It takes a long time for us to kind of hit those milestones, and we never hit them again. As in, like, it's never your first time to do something like that again.
Yeah. And then it could be another 6 months before you get to go any heavier when you're at this end of this training.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I
Yeah,
really,
the way I get faffy around it does, but when I get my head down and do stuff again.
if you're not, depends on how, what your training looks like. I think there are ways to continually make, well, it depends on how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose though that one that's quite a top end for me because I'm quite small, so it's like borderline double body weight. So it does take time to get a little bit heavier with stuff like that for me anyway.
Yeah, it's a question of um priorities and plan. And
Yeah.
like I think a lot of people sell themselves short, and we have these things of double body weight. It's like, oh my God, that's so big. Uh, it's like when I first started, and I maybe not even when I first started, but even when I was finishing college, so around 2014, 2015,
Mm.
somebody to be able to bench 100 kilos, it was rare. Now everybody, like as a guy, no, everybody benches 100 kilos. Like, well, if you can't bench 100 kilos, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like the 100 kilos was the gold standard for, oh, that's a good deadlift. But now it's like if you don't bench like 140, I'm like, ah, yeah, sounds about right. I'm like, that's a hard deadlift to work
Mm.
up, or it's not with deadlift, bench press to work up towards. So I'm like, nah. I think we're so much more capable than we thought. And I had placed these limits on myself. I was like, oh, 100 kilos, like a life. That'll be a lifetime goal. I was like, no, it's not now. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's I go through phases. Like I get really, really good at like laser focus on something, and then
Yeah.
I lose it for a while, and then I'm like, oh, I've started to be like, okay, you don't need to start back at there. You can actually start back at 10 kilos heavier. You're actually just babying yourself now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's just a case of um appropriately planning your intensity, volume, and frequency. That's all it is. And you'll be able to do some um every single day. I know of people who deadlift twice a week and they deadlift twice a week hard, and they're fine and they continue to see progress.
So, do you have any advice for anyone coming into this like period of 2 weeks where everything's a bit manic? I know things have kind of started since December, or what would you say to?
Some people even start in November.
Yeah, actually.
I would honestly just say to have fun, but try to stay active, and don't completely go off the rails.
Yeah.
Push the limits if you want to, um, but be aware of the costs of it. So
Yeah.
if you are going to do what most people do, say on Christmas Day, and you're going to do it for over 30 days in a row, you're not going to have a good time come January.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. Like as I said, like I'm gonna take a week off training. Doesn't mean I won't be like walking or horse riding. Like it's that kind of thing. It's like you can still keep active without having to be in the gym every day that week.
Yeah.
And if you are trying to do it because you want to, not because you feel like you have to.
Yeah, that's it. Unless you've got something coming up that's quite urgent. You don't, yeah, and even at that, you don't need to, you probably don't need to do it the way that you think you need to do it. There are so many ways that you can do it. And you can just tip along for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Like it's almost like pressing pause on your training. Just
Yeah.
do the bare minimum, and you'll probably see a little bit of improvement. And some people who just do too much all of the time will probably might even see more improvement this way.
Yeah.
They're actually recovering for the first time this year, especially with the extra calories.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I know I've seen before people like use those put those extra calories to work and do your training and all this, and it's like you don't have to though. You know that.
Exactly.
um, I'm going to enjoy all those calories.
Well, I'm a devil for it.
I suppose they probably can't leave selection boxes anywhere near you, can they?
No, if there's a selection box there, it wouldn't be there come tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, so, like when people go and buy like I'll go and intentionally buy a multi-pack for me
Oh yeah, I know that.
all the time. Disaster.
I'm funny like I can just like if it's in the house, Peter will eat it if he can see it. Me, I can leave it like and just be like, oh, I don't want it right now. I'll have it later.
I can leave stuff, like, no problem. It's just like if I'm gonna sit down and have something, I'll probably have the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'll stop when I'm satisfied.
which is
I
generally
think,
after the
I
whole
think
thing.
that's I think that's how I don't classify for binge eating. What I do because I know that someone will look at kind of what I've eaten is like, why'd you keep eating? I was like, because I wanted to. A part of it was undiagnosed ADHD though, and impulse control, but that's not. It has been an issue since then.
Yeah, whenever you know as well.
Yeah,
But yes, it does help when you get that diagnosis, doesn't
definitely.
it? Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to ask you about this, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I hadn't really got anything there today. I didn't really know. I knew we were going to talk about Christmas, but I think I kind of waffled on there. Didn't really say much of substance, but
No, you
good.
did. It made sense. It was good actually. So do you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, they'll find me on Inst. Oh, sorry, I got something to plug. So in
Coaches?
February, I'm doing a massive seminar in London with 3 other coaches, Chris Speed of Ronin Strength, Angus Bradley, all the way from Australia, and Matt Watson, who's also from the UK. Matt's the plyo guy. Um, loves his box jumps, he does. But we are doing things a little bit differently because seminars are kind of limited in the sense that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because you can pack so much into the day, but what happens there is people get overwhelmed. It's like, what? That's so much information. How could I ever actually implement any of this? Or if you focus on one thing and you do it well, it's like, did I really get value for money? So we're like, how can we overcome this? So we're going to try to leverage technology and the internet as much as we possibly can. We're going to have some pre-seminar content in the weeks beforehand, and then we're going to have some post-seminar content. So the post-seminar content will be more of a mentorship format as well. So you'll really get a chance to ask any of the burning questions afterwards, because that's another issue with seminars. You don't really come up with your good questions until after, like you've digested your information. You're like, oh, I don't think this really makes sense. What if I ask this? So if you can ask your questions then, and you really learn how to implement it that way. So you'll get that on my Instagram as well, in the bio, but it's Cian O'Brien on Instagram.
That sounds really cool. Also, guys, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Instagram. It is Chrissy H Fitness, or my horse riding Instagram is Strong in the Saddle with an _. And it's also on TikTok, Strong in the Saddle. And then my website is www.chrissyhawkins.com. So thanks again for joining us today, Cian.
Anytime at all.
I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.